Emma was a bright young girl who lived in a small town called Grenell. She always dreamed of speaking English fluently. In her country, English was not the first language, but Emma knew how important it was. She had big dreams of traveling the world, getting a good job, and making new friends from different countries. All of this required one thing: learning English. Her journey to becoming an advanced English speaker was long and full of challenges, but Emma never gave up. Emma began her English learning at the age of 12. At first, things were exciting and fun. She sat in her classroom, surrounded by her classmates, and listened eagerly to her teacher. The teacher spoke slowly, and Emma learned simple things like greetings, numbers, and colors. "Hello. How are you?" the teacher would say. "I am fine, thank you." The class would reply together. At home, Emma practiced with her younger brother, Tim. They would play a game where they pointed at objects and named them in English. "This is a table. That is a chair." It felt easy at first, and Emma thought learning English would be a breeze, but as time went on, things became more difficult. She learned the alphabet quickly, but the grammar rules were tricky. There were so many tenses: past, present, future, and even things like present perfect and past continuous. Why are there so many ways to talk about the past? Emma wondered. Sometimes she would mix up the tenses and say things like, "I am go to the shop yesterday," instead of "I went to the shop yesterday." Then came the irregular verbs. Emma found them especially frustrating. Why was it go in the present, but went in the past? And why did the past tense of teach become taught but reach stayed reached? Every day, new words and rules filled her mind, and sometimes she felt as if her head would explode. The hardest part, though, was pronunciation. English pronunciation was strange and confusing. Emma would see a word, like through, and think it should sound like through. But no, it was pronounced through. And what about though, thought, tough, and thorough? They looked similar but sounded completely different. It was enough to make anyone give up, but Emma was determined. She studied hard, listened to English audio tapes, and wrote down new words every day in a small notebook she carried everywhere. She often practiced with her mirror, repeating words and sentences over and over until they sounded correct. By the time Emma was 15, she had reached an intermediate level. She could hold simple conversations with her teachers and classmates. She knew enough to ask questions like, "Where is the nearest bus stop?" or "What time does the movie start?" But Emma didn't want to stop there. She wanted to understand English movies without subtitles and read books that weren't just for beginners. This part of the journey was difficult for Emma. At first, she felt confident, but as she tried to read more complicated books and listen to native speakers, she realized how much she still didn't know. Native speakers spoke fast, using slang and idioms that she had never heard before. They didn't say "How are you?" but instead used phrases like "How's it going?" or "What's up?" When Emma first heard these expressions, she thought they were strange and confusing. One day, Emma decided to watch an English movie without subtitles. She picked a popular one that her friends had recommended. As soon as the characters started speaking, Emma realized she could only understand a few words. Wait. Slow down, she thought. But the actors didn't slow down, of course. They spoke quickly, using words and expressions Emma had never learned. She felt frustrated and a bit sad. It was like all the work she had done so far wasn't enough. But Emma didn't give up. She started using a new method to help her improve. She watched English TV shows and movies with subtitles in her own language. When she saw a new word or expression, she paused the video and wrote it down. Then, she looked up the meaning and practiced saying it herself. After a few months, Emma could understand more and more. It wasn't perfect, but it was better. At school, Emma's teachers started giving her more advanced texts to read. These texts were full of new vocabulary and complicated sentence structures. Words like nevertheless, consequently, and moreover appeared often, and Emma found them difficult to understand. She kept a dictionary by her side and would spend hours looking up words, writing them down, and trying to remember them. Her speaking also improved slowly. She practiced with her classmates, and sometimes they would meet after school to chat in English. At first, it was awkward. They made mistakes, laughed at their errors, and sometimes got stuck trying to find the right words. But over time, Emma noticed that she was making fewer mistakes. She still had trouble with things like phrasal verbs and prepositions, but she felt more comfortable speaking in English. By the time Emma turned 18, she had decided it was time to challenge herself more seriously. She enrolled in an advanced English course at a local language school. This class was filled with students who had the same goal: to become fluent in English. The lessons were more intense than anything Emma had experienced before. Her teacher, Ms. Green, was strict but kind. She pushed her students to think deeply about the language and encouraged them to speak as much as possible. In this class, Emma learned about things like idioms, phrasal verbs, and collocations. For example, she learned that in English, people don't just make a mistake, they make decisions, but do the dishes. Phrasal verbs like give up, take off, and look after were especially difficult for her. They seemed so random, and Emma often mixed them up. Once, during class, she said, "I will look for my little sister," when she meant to say look after her. Idioms were even stranger. Emma laughed the first time she heard the idiom "it's raining cats and dogs." She imagined cats and dogs falling from the sky. But after learning more idioms, she realized how important they were in English. People used them all the time, and if you didn't know them, conversations could become confusing. Her classmates were from different countries, and they all spoke English with different accents. This helped Emma get used to the way English sounds in different parts of the world. Some students spoke with British accents, while others spoke with American or Australian ones. Emma enjoyed hearing the variety, but it also made her realize how complicated English could be. One of the hardest parts of the course was preparing for presentations. Emma was terrified of speaking in front of others. She was afraid of making mistakes and embarrassing herself. For her final exam, she had to give a 10-minute presentation on a topic of her choice. Emma chose to talk about the importance of learning languages, a topic close to her heart. The night before her presentation, Emma barely slept. She practiced in front of the mirror, over and over, trying to make sure she didn't forget anything. When the day came, she stood in front of the class, her heart pounding in her chest. She stumbled on a few words, but she kept going. When she finished, the class clapped, and her teacher smiled at her. "Well done, Emma," Ms. Green said. "Your English has come a long way." Emma knew that even though she was now at an advanced level, her learning was not over. She still made mistakes, and there were still many things she didn't know. But she felt proud of how far she had come. She could now have long conversations with native speakers, understand complex books and news articles, and even laugh at English jokes. She realized that learning a language wasn't just about knowing grammar and vocabulary, it was about understanding the culture, humor, and way of thinking of the people who spoke it. After finishing her advanced course, Emma decided to continue learning on her own. She started reading English novels, listening to podcasts, and even writing short stories in English. She knew that the journey to mastering a language never really ends, but she was ready for the challenge. Now, at 24 years old, Emma is living the life she always dreamed of. She travels to different countries, meets new people, and speaks English with confidence. She knows there's always more to learn, but she's no longer afraid of making mistakes. Every mistake is just another step forward in her journey. Looking back, Emma realizes that learning English was one of the hardest things she has ever done. But it was also one of the most rewarding. Her advice to anyone learning English is simple: don't give up. It's okay to struggle. Keep practicing, and one day you'll see how far you've come.